Biggest thing, one of the things that you can do, and I would really strongly encourage people to always train like this, is prepare for the worst. Absolutely prepare for the worst. That way, when the worst comes, or when a situation comes that's not the worst, you're able to, hey, this is nothing. I can do this.
Hello and welcome to Making Shooters Better, brought to you by Laser Ammo, the most advanced laser-based firearms training available. I'm your host, Terry Vaughan. Most people never get to save a life. Even fewer, I think, get to do it with dozens of people watching and all the stress that comes along with doing that. Certainly, they don't have any option to step back. It's them or no one. But I was there at the ALERRT Conference in Texas in early December. ALERRT is the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training Conference. And a man just collapsed. It was towards the end of the day. Down he goes. The guys closest to him, with minimal hesitation, stepped in and started performing life-saving CPR. And I got to watch something that most people only ever read about or perhaps see on television, and that is a guy being literally pulled back from the edge of death, which is why today's guest and the conversation we're going to have really matter, because I think most of us, we don't expect it to be us, whether that's either as the patient or as the person who has to step into the shoes of saving somebody else. But unfortunately, in most cases, it's the person who is either least prepared or feels least prepared or least qualified that often has to step into that space and either save a life or intervene in some way. So today you're going to be meeting Devyn Austin-Johnson. He's a patrol officer out of Janesville, Wisconsin. He's a member of their SWAT team. He's a drone operator and also a 5-year law enforcement veteran, and one of the guys I had the privilege of seeing literally help save a life. So Devyn, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Well, thank you for having me, Terry. This is going to be fun. I'm enjoying this.
In your defense, I did have to beg and twist an arm a little bit to get you on here.
Absolutely. You can say that again. This is definitely out of my wheelhouse. So this is going to be a new experience. That's for sure.
At one point, I think you said, I would rather be serving, a high risk warrant or something than dealing with this podcast BS. So I really do appreciate you taking time to get in here and share what happened at the ALERRT conference. So what I think would be helpful is to set the scene for us, go back to a few moments before this guy collapsed, and then walk us through what happened.
Well, it was extremely unexpected, obviously. We're wrapping up the end of the day. It's the first day of the ALERRT conference, and everybody is just kind of socializing, having a good time. I remember, so from Wisconsin, that was a big thing, was they had the Packer game playing in the back. And so
that's what you were all doing at the back of the room.
Absolutely. So we were all watching the Packer game. Someone has the Bear Packer game on, and I'm a huge football fan. So I got to root for my home team. So I'm watching my team, and everybody's kind of getting to know each other. That was the really cool part of being from Wisconsin, coming all the way down to San Marcos, Texas, and seeing everybody's perspective about their side of football. So that's my wheelhouse. I really love that sport. So it was nice to kind of center around something so common, that everybody could kind of break away from all the cop talk and the tactics. And it was just nice to just have a little bit of socialization. And so like anything else, people start gathering around watching the game. And it was a pinnacle part of the game. It's funny how your brain remembers very specific details during the most traumatic events. And I remember just watching that the Bears tied it up, and I go, oh my goodness, and here we go. Unfortunately, but fortunately, I will say, there was this individual who walked over, and he stood right beside me. And I mean, this is a huge conference, and he chose to sit by me. I think it's because I was hoarding the best spot in the house watching the game. So when he got by me, I remember, I talked to him about how the game was going, and he asked, how the game was looking. And as I turn my attention back to the game to kind of fill him in on what's going on, he collapses. That right there was a wake up call. Cause I mean, I shouldn't say we all, but when there's that moment of what's going on here, you got to take that time to, okay, what's going on? Look around. All right, this is definitely a medical episode. It was pretty quick to understand that. I think the confusion was what's going on. That's the biggest thing is this just, he got too hot? Is it, he's having a heart attack or acceptable to seizures? We don't know. So my first instinct was just put him in the recovery position. Get him the airway open. That was my biggest thing is, hey, I just want to make sure that this guy is able to have his airway open. That way, when first responders and paramedics arrive on scene, that they can perform what they need to perform. And I didn't know how far their station was.
So
Just
to jump in there for a second, when you say the recovery position, because there'll be many people that have no idea what a recovery position looks like.
Yep.
Give us that.
So the recovery position is to turn an individual on their side, put their arm above them, and almost put them in a kickstand formation on their side. It opens up your airway. So it allows people who have seizures, who have some sort of medical episode to have that airway at least accessible, right? So that's the biggest thing is that we just wanted, not knowing what the medical need was, that's the least amount of medical expertise that I would give anybody is, if when in doubt, always put somebody in a recovery position, because at least you're opening their airway. Obviously if it's known that the person is not breathing, then that's when we can start doing CPR. But in that situation, almost every time I tell people that's probably the most needed medical practice is just put somebody in the recovery position. So once that happened, and he was in and out of consciousness. So me thinking, and I'm a cop, I'm not a medical guy, so I don't know what's going on, and I'm trying to see what's happening. Everybody's surrounding, trying to put an input, and I'm like, I don't know if he's having a seizure, if he just passed out. That was the biggest, I would say, unknown, is what is this guy's diagnosis? How can we help him? Because he was in and out of consciousness. And thank goodness, his father was right next to him, who happened to be a doctor. This is the most, crazy series of events that could have happened.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, because again, I'm a police officer, right? My biggest thing is, okay, I need the actual medical professionals to come in. So I start asking who's got medical experience, because I knew that there was medics at this conference along with law enforcement. So who's got medical experience? And this guy who was next to him, who I didn't have a conversation with, but was next to the individual that fell, he's like, well, I'm a doctor, and I see on a shirt it says doctor, and I go, all right, you're in charge, and you're taking the reins on this whole thing, and you give me a task, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Obviously there was a lot of unknown panic. He had the idea of, hey, he's going blue, we need to turn him. And so we take him out of the recovery position, and that is when I started feeling for a pulse. I was not able to find one. And then it was just, all right, we got to start doing CPR. There was a medic from Odessa, Texas, who gave the first round of chest compressions after I said there was no pulse. So he started giving chest compressions, and it was good communication between him and I of, okay, when you're ready to tap out, I'm tapping in. So then he taps out. I tap in, I start doing chest compressions, and we're all trying to coordinate. What do we need? Okay, you get the AED, you get medical, call 911. And again, this guy was in and out of consciousness. So that was the most confusing part of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, as in the midst of this chaos, I will say that it felt just like a day on the job. Nobody overly panicked. Nobody was screaming. Nobody was hectic. It was calm, organized. Everybody was willing to pitch in. I can't tell you how many people tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, when you need a break, I'm ready." And that was a big sense of confidence right there, is that, hey, we got this. We're going to be just fine here. And what was really hilarious about this entire thing was, we went down in a group from Janesville area to San Marcos for the conference. And my buddy, who is a medic and is on our TEM squad on SWAT, is there. And so I'm looking at him like, "Hey, man, I'm going to need you to come over here and start doing your thing here." And he runs over. He's about, I don't know, 6'5". So he just galloped over there. I remember watching him looking like Fabio, I'm like, oh, thank God, and that was what was so nice was, when he showed up and he took control of the head area, it's literally what we do on such a regular basis, working together with fire, especially with a fire guy that I knew since the beginning of my career, and so that made it really easy to, hey, okay, you know what, we're going to be fine. And I knew my role. My role was support. You tell me what to do, and that's what I'm going to do. He started getting medical, I would say, lingo out that obviously I'm not going to understand. So my job, CPR. You just keep telling me CPR and chest compressions, I'm all there. You keep talking about some other tubes and gauges, I'm out of there. I don't know what you're talking about. Yep. And so thankfully, in the midst of all this, is that we're at a conference where everybody's bringing their new gadgets, their new tech, and the greatest thing is that someone brought an AED over, and I was like, oh, "This is amazing." You know what I mean? Everybody's prepared. So he got a tactical bag. He got a tactical bag with a nasal cavity tube, or nasal. Yeah, the green tube. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name. So then he gets the green tube and he's like, "Hey, where's the lube?" And, crude joke pops in my head. So, and that's you got to break yourself out of that tunnel vision. And I remember, and a lot of these situations that I've learned over the years is break yourself out of the tunnel vision. Because once you get too locked in, your auditory exclusion starts popping in, you start becoming too target focused, and you miss key things. So my sense of breaking out of that is obviously humor, right? I got to crack a joke. I didn't think in that time it was appropriate to say that. Now, if this was a real call, I probably would have said something, you know. So he thankfully used the patient's saliva, put the tube in, and we're still doing chest compressions. And this goes on for a couple minutes until we can finally get the AED operational, just because I believe the battery of the demo one was dead. So that's a chaos right there, right? So you have a plan. Obviously, you can control the controllables. It's not working. We got to keep doing what we're doing. So when the AED was finally up and operational, that was a cool part, because I would say a lot of agencies, if not all of them, train CPR almost bi-yearly, and the AEDs always come out, and I've never really seen an AED ever work, or I wouldn't even say work, be operational. So I've never seen that. Usually, they bring the Lucas machine when I'm on scene. No one brings an AED. So
that's a good point. Tell us about the Lucas machine.
So the Lucas machine, that is the God's gift to CPR. So when you see this machine, they literally hook a patient up with a metal plastic tube thing, and it just compresses the chest, and it's just a tube that constantly compresses. And then they put the patient and they Velcro his arms, or her arms, on the device, and they just put that sucker on until they go to the hospital. And that thing works wonders. So in my back of my head, I'm thinking, all right, we need a Lucas machine. Obviously, we're not getting that, right? So that was
most people don't realize how exhausting it is to do compressions.
yes, yeah,
which
absolutely.
is why you would like having a group of people around you recognize, okay, this is going to get fatiguing, 30 seconds, a minute of compressions, because you are compressing. We're not,
Yes.
this is not like that fun time, you start bouncing around. You're compressing the chest. It's exhausting, and rotating people is huge if, especially, you don't have the Lucas machine to do those compressions for you.
Absolutely. And I think the communication between the Odessa medic and myself was so vital to how smooth this operation was going, just because we've never met each other. We've never talked to each other. We've never worked together. And I trusted him and he trusted me. Well, that's what I believe happened, right? He could have been like, this guy, we got to get this guy out of here. I'm not quite sure. I think that he had trust in me. But it was great communication from there. Hey, I'm ready to switch off. And it wasn't an ego thing. Hey, I need 30 seconds is all I got. And same thing, 30 seconds is all I got. And just giving the patient the best odds, right? Like, do I want to give somebody chest compressions until I pass out? No, absolutely not. And so that communication was beautiful. And then when, his name's Mitch Severson, the medic from Janesville, he came and took control, cause he was able to come to the scene when the chaos has already ensued. So it's always nice to be one of the last people on scene, because then you can take everything in and be able to control the controllables from there. And when he got on scene, that's when I knew, okay, you just tell me what you need. And that was, just knowing what your role is, the biggest thing, not trying to overstep or trying to be, the guy, I would say, right? Like, we're not trying to be the hero. There is no plaque at the end of this. We're just trying to save a life. And so it switched from the doctor to Mitch being the team lead, just because we thought, okay, once we found out that he was the father during the midst of this, we were like, you know what, maybe let's get you away from this situation temporarily. And I think he did a really good job. I don't know what his experience was, but I could tell you that he, unlike a lot of people, was able to work through a lot of that own trauma and be able to self evac himself from being tunnel visioned. So I will say I give him a lot of credit, and I hope that one day he knows how important that he was to this whole thing. But yeah, so when Mitch had the role, we just started going and going and going, and that's when the AED came into play. And once AED came in, it gave him one shock, and that was, I've never seen someone's color come to them so fast. And that's when I knew, holy smokes, this thing actually works. And and I'm always skeptical.
You don't know.
I've never known.
No.
I've never known. And so when the AED worked, and the first thing he said was, "Get this thing out of my nose." And I remember laughing, and we all kind of like looked at each other and just chuckled and like, "Yep, we're good." So if that was a really nice testament to, okay, let's just be target focused. Let's figure out what we need to do as a team to get this guy the help he needs. And when we got the tube out of his nose, he's panicked, he's confused, rightly so. So my main focus from there was, hey, let's calm you down, right? Like, I assumed at that point that he was a first responder of some sort, just because he was at the conference. So my primary focus was, hey, you're okay. And I never want to lie to somebody, right? Especially in that situation. Hey, you were out for a while. We had to do chest compressions, but you're back. What I need you to do is just focus on your breathing and talk to me. Tell me anything. And yeah, it hurt like hell for him to talk to me, but that was the biggest thing, is I just need you to keep talking to me. That way I know where you're at. And we, hey, just tell me where you at. What year is it? Who's the current president? Very basic things, just so I can gauge where you are. And once that was able to get the scene controlled and figure out, okay, hey, let's get him into a higher level of need. That's when, thankfully, the paramedics arrived on scene. When he was, I would say, stable, that's a good win. That's less paperwork on their end. I know that they would love that.
It's a great win.
Yes. So it was really nice to see how chaotic that situation was and how controlled it was from the perspective of us. I will say that there were so many people that stepped up, the people that all wanted to pitch in and help, and it just shows how together we are, right? We see a problem, we try to solve that problem at any means. It doesn't matter if you're fire, police, ex-law enforcement, everybody wants to help, and it's nice when you finally get a win. And I will say I was in a dry spell for CPR for quite some time, so this was nice to get a win on this one. So I was really ecstatic from that. We were able to catch up with his father, I think the last day of the conference, who told us that he was doing better, had a pretty severe heart attack, and thankfully he had that heart attack in front of a bunch of first responders who were ready to act right away. So, I mean, very thankful.
Of all the places in the world to fall down and have a heart attack, obviously, you don't want to wish that on anybody, but if you're going to go down, let's do it at a conference where you're literally surrounded by first responders.
Absolutely. And everybody's got their tech. That was the coolest thing is like, you're going down and everybody's bringing their tech to say, hey, I can help you. And that was the best thing. Just seeing how, and after we got away from the scene, I was able to see all the products that people were trying to use. And again, I love that. I would rather have too many tools than not enough. So bring me everything you got and we can go through what we need to go through. I remember someone brought a whole trauma kit, and I remember seeing a tourniquet and I was like, I hope nobody was going to use that tourniquet.
You're like, this is not the time.
Yeah, this is not the time. I was like, I don't think he's... Yeah, exactly. But and that's just a testament to what everybody does, especially the people like yourself that are making products that are definitely helping our community and our communities, keeping us on our toes, keeping us safe, and keeping us one step ahead. I think that's the biggest thing that we got from that was just, hey, when things hit the fan, people are already there.
Yeah. Well, the thing for me, it was at the end of the day. So I was already kind of packing up. I'm going home now. I'm going back to my room and chilling. And as I was leaving, I came around the corner of the last sort of set of conference tables and vendor displays to see what looked to me, because there was a crowd of people on their knees working, I thought working a mannequin. I'm like, somebody is doing a CPR demo, because let's face it, there's so many classes going on in so many areas and there's so much equipment. So when I came around the corner, at first I'm like, well, I'm not leaving now. These are the professionals. Mm-hmm. They're doing a demo. I'm going to stay here and watch. And it was when the first switch out occurred. There was okay, change. And I'm thinking to myself, with my very limited medical experience, compressions are fatiguing. They are really tiring. And you don't want to be the guy that just keeps hammering away, because as you get tired, you go from compressing to leaning, right? And now and of course it's difficult to over compress with a heart attack, but the goal is not to break ribs. So you do want to change. You want fresh person in there. And I saw the change happen. And when it happened, I'm like, oh, that's not a mannequin, because I couldn't see clearly with all the people around. I'm like, no, that's a dude. Like, that's a dude down. This is happening in real time. And it was funny because it took several seconds for that reality to sort of settle in, that this wasn't a demo, to take that initial read on the situation and then change it to okay, that's what I thought was happening. This is the actual reality. Mm-hmm. And then, like everybody else, I marveled at how smooth and calm the situation was, right? There was life-saving actions going on, but nobody was panicked. There were instructions. There was clear communication. It was amazing to watch what looked like a pre-rehearsed response to a horrible event just play out the way you would hope it would play out. If I kept thinking, if that was me on the floor, right now I'd be thanking God that these guys were the ones around me, because everybody was just, okay, it's this. The communication was smooth. The changeovers were smooth. It was like, hey, what's next steps? There was one guy walking around calmly giving people instructions. I need you to go here and do this. I need you to go here and do this. And I watched this play out. Honestly, it was about as close to, what you might see on a TV show like The Pit, where everybody just calmly gets in and works the problem. And it was truly amazing to see complete strangers, as I found out later, all come together and go, yeah, we got this.
It was absolutely fascinating. It was one of those, when we put on the uniform, or when you're on shift, you're ready for anything. You're trained to, if there's a situation that can go bad, you better think about it and prepare for it. And that's for anything. And I mean, it's almost like, I know this sounds corny, so don't laugh too much, but it's when you put that uniform on, it's almost like, okay, I'm Superman. I can put my cape on, you know what I mean? And then you're trained as soon as you are off the job. Hey, you're Clark Kent. You can be yourself, and you can be a family man. And so obviously we, are at a conference where it's just socialization time, getting to know you. And we're watching the Packer game, and that was when chaos can happen, it can happen anywhere. And you just got to be prepared based on your training. Hey, I'm okay to do this. And it wasn't a lot of, hey, I need X, Y, and Z over here. I need you to go do X, Y, and Z. Nope. Hey, I'm here. You're there. Let's get to work. And that was the biggest thing. And I think that was a testament, seriously. And I wish I could have a out of body experience of seeing how many people were just like, you know what? Everybody's doing a job. And that's why I felt was even behind me. There were people talking about, okay, let's start getting his medical history from father. So they're asking father, hey, what's his blood type? What's his medical diagnosis? Has he been susceptible to seizures? Does he have heart attacks? And I'm like, this is what we're talking about. This is exactly, if I was out in the field, this is exactly what would be the questions happening. This is what we would be doing. So it was nice. And it was very nice to see when the paramedics and police came on scene, how I would say forgiving they were, just letting us work, and that was really eye-opening to see, hey, we do got this. Hey, we're doing a pretty stellar job right now, just seeing, because I know when I go on scene, you got to take control. And so when you go there and, police are, hey, you're doing a really good job. That's all we needed.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Yes, thank you. And keeping that positive energy and keeping it calm, I think that was a real life response to how our training has prepared us for these traumatic moments. No, it was a very chaotic time, and thankfully he's alive today. So that was a huge for us.
Yeah. Well, because it's pertinent to this conversation and specifically to what you dealt with, along with the rest of the guys that helped save that guy's life, I'm going to share something that happened. This is going back many years now, but not too long before moving to the States with my then fiance and now wife. We were in central London. We'd gone out for a walk. It was a fall afternoon. It's getting dark early. It's a cold breeze. I mean, it's perfect London weather. We're on our way back from Regent's Park, and we had stopped at a sort of a crossroads where it was one lane of traffic and then a pedestrian place where you stopped in the middle of the road before going to the next lane. And we were both looking across the road, completely and utterly in chill out mode. We're on our way back to our flat. We're not thinking medical crisis. And a girl on the opposite side of this 2 lanes of traffic looked the wrong way and stepped out into traffic. She just looked the wrong way. And she was hit by a car, at my estimation, is probably between 35 and 45 miles an hour, which is a significant speed for a human being to be hit by this vehicle. It took her legs, her head hit the windshield, and then even now I can hear the quiet as she sort of went up over the car, didn't even touch the roof, just tumbled in the air. The screech of the tires that happened right after this guy obviously hit the brakes. And then she lands on the road, thump. And it was like somebody hit wet cabbage. She just thump. And I'm looking at this, and it's London. There's plenty of people around, but nobody moved. And I'm former military. I was actually still serving at the time. But I looked at other people, especially people closer to her, and I had a moment, I'm not afraid to admit, where I was super hopeful somebody else was going to step in and deal with it, because this looked horrendous. And nobody did. And of course, this is all transpiring over a matter of maybe 2 or 3 seconds. Nobody moved. And I'm like, nope, it's me. And I'm thinking, I am not qualified. My medical training is minimal. This is going to be a right dog's dinner. And I'm thinking as I start running across the road, looking to make sure I don't get hit myself or my missus gets hit, breathe, slow your heart rate down, and take it one step at a time. And when I arrived at her, there were people starting to crowd in, but nobody had moved to help. And of course, my first thing is, okay, is she breathing? Do we have a pulse? And we had both of those immediately. And then I'm kind of at a loss, to be honest, for a moment. I'm thinking, okay, well, I have a pulse and I have a breathing, because she was ragged. You could hear her going, like the adrenaline was in the system. She's unconscious, but this breathing is ragged. There's no obstruction. And I'm thinking, I can't roll her into the recovery position because I have no idea what damage has been done to her head or her neck. So I'm thinking, what do I do? And of course, I'm taking my jacket off. I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep her warm. And then I hit that moment. It was funny because I had a moment of, okay, I'm breathing again. Thinking or cognition is coming back. Secondary checks. What is injured? Where are the injuries? So I started at her skull, very gently going over her. The occipital part of her skull felt like eggshells, and there was a little bit of blood, and it was horrible to feel that sort of compression of the skull in the back of her head. Collarbone's fine, arms are fine, go down her hips. Everything felt like it was where it's supposed to be, but I got to her leg, the one that had actually been hit by the car, and it was broken just below the knee. And I mean, it hadn't come through the skin, but it was busted. And I'm like, okay, I got to keep her still and calm and warm. And at this point, I'm pointing at people. You go stop traffic. You go make sure nobody comes speeding around these people. And I was pointing at my fiance, Carol, like, go and get an ambulance. Go, call for the emergency services. And I found out later she was going down, banging on car windows because we didn't have a cell phone. That's how long ago this was. We weren't carrying cell phones. She's banging on car windows saying, all 911, we need an ambulance. And people were winding their windows back up and ignoring her. She did that to 4 vehicles before somebody said, don't you mean 999? We don't dial 911 in England. It's 999.
Right? I would have never thought of that. That is insane.
I kicked myself later for not saying, make sure you're telling them 999, not 911. But she is American, and she goes, 911, that's what you call for an emergency. While that is happening, of course, this is unbeknownst to me at the time because I'm still dealing with the girl. A guy runs forward and says, I'm a doctor. Can you imagine my sense of relief? I'm like, this is fantastic. There's a doctor. What a miracle. And I physically, emotionally, just sort of sat down on my heels a little bit and said, great. Do your thing, Doc. He looks at her. He looks at me. He looks at her again. He looks at me again. He doesn't do a damn thing. And I'm thinking, this guy doesn't know what to do. He's completely out of his element. He could have been a podiatrist for all I know, right?
Yes,
he's a doctor of what? He doesn't do anything.
That
so
happens, I feel like, a lot.
Yes.
Everybody's like, I'm a nurse. And you're like, what kind of nurse?
Correct. You want to know, right?
Yep.
And I said to him, I'm like, Doc, we've got a pulse. We've got breathing. You can hear it. I've done secondary checks. She's got a fracture in the occipital part of her skull. Her tib and fib is broken on the right leg from where the car hit her. Hips and everything else seem good. What do we do next? And he snapped out of his sort of locked in that tunnel vision that you were talking about, where he was so focused in on what do we do next and not really knowing, to be honest. then we started, okay, we've got to keep her warm, and we did all the things. And eventually, and it really didn't take long, considering this was central London, maybe 7 or 8 minutes for the ambulance to get there. As soon as the ambulance arrived and the medics rolled in, of course, they come hurrying up with the stretcher and all that stuff, he stands up and gives them the most clinical doctor's report you've ever heard. He said, I've already done secondary checks. She has a fracture in the right side of her occipital skull. And off he goes. And I'm not kidding you. Took credit, not that I wanted it, but took credit for everything. And I just remember in that moment going, the professionals are here. This clown can go off, and do whatever he wants to do. I'm going to sit on the edge of the pavement and see if I can get my hands to stop shaking. I still don't know to this day, because obviously they took her away fairly quickly, if she lived or died. No idea which hospital she went to. And it was after the whole thing was done, when I'd been fairly calm in the moment, that I realized after the fact I was operating on some measure of all the little bits of training I'd had over the years with the military. It was funny because I was out of my element. I don't even know if the secondary checks that I thought of in my head were even the right thing to do. I just felt like I needed to do something. And as the first 2 things I was looking for, circulation and breathing, were already taken care of, what do I do? To this day, I still have moments where if I think about it, my heart rate starts coming up again. And I'm like, oh, it was awful, because I felt so helpless. And yet that small amount of training that I'd had in, a variety of areas for the military paid dividends in allowing me to manage the emotions, manage the stress, at least up until the point where the incident was over.
That is the craziest thing that I would say our training has really done, both law enforcement and military. And we, as law enforcement, we have a lot of military, I would say, practices that train us, is to be able to control the controllables, and to, hey, right now, you have to put your own feelings aside. You have to not only think like a robot, but you have to act like a robot, right? You have a system and you do the system. And a lot of times we, as people who just dealt with a traumatic experience, that come out of that, will experience a ton of different effects, where fatigue, high heart rate, exhaustion, the shakiness, the involuntary shakiness of your own hands. It is honestly impressive what the brain is able to do, and then for you to break out of that. First off, I will say that for you to do that is extremely brave. And I hope that woman pulled through, and no matter what happened, you did something, and that's a win in anybody's book. That is something that all I can ask for, and anybody can ask for, is do something, just like you said, just doing something. Doing nothing is the worst thing. And I tell a bunch of the new officers who come on, and I say new, I'm 5 years on, right? But, the worst thing you can do is not try and do nothing. There is a fight, flight, and freeze, and that freeze is something that you're not allowed to do around me. You have to fight or run, right? So I'm going to need you to run somewhere and do something, or I'm going to need you to fight and do something. But this whole freezing thing, I can't have you do it. And I think that is a testament to how you controlled that situation. Is I need to prioritize what my training has taught me and how I can implement it into this situation. It is honestly impressive to break out of a critical incident that you were just in and be able to say, and just get your mobility back and get your motor skills back.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's kind of funny because at some point, at the point where the doctor was there and I was there, and we were conversing over the top of her, we're trying to keep her warm. She comes to. She's unconscious, she's conscious. Her breathing slows for a moment. She talks to us and says what has happened, and it has an American drawl to it, right? It is actually probably a southern state, to be honest, now knowing, having lived in the South for so long. But the moment after she asked the question, and I realized in that moment why she'd looked the wrong way on the road, she panicked and sat up. And it surprised the hell out of both of us that she did that. But I bring that up because there was a calm moment in my head where I'm thinking her leg is busted, like it's bad. Mm-hmm. When she feels that, the pain is probably going to get her to either flop around or even pass out. And she passed out. And I managed to catch her head before it went back to the pavement as a flop. And it's funny because in the moment, I felt completely calm. It was only afterwards, it all bets were off. My hands were shaking. I felt like throwing up. I was, as you said, exhausted. But it's so funny because the doc didn't catch her. He wasn't thinking that. He knew about the injury. I managed to hold her the best I could as she went down because she screamed after she moved her leg. And then anyway, it was one of those instances because I was not in uniform. I was coming back from a walk in the park with my, missus. I wasn't thinking something's going to happen on the way home today and I'm going to need to deal with it. I was very much I am chilling out. I'm in London. I'm going home to my flat. We're going to have some tomato soup and chill out for the night. Like it was completely unexpected. And I think the lesson from this is for individuals listening that haven't perhaps done a CPR class in a while or taken any sort of medical trauma training or put themselves in a position where they can get it wrong and there's a lot of stress and the heart rate is up, they should enroll. They should take classes. They should go and do something that really stretches them and pulls them out of the comfort zone because you just don't know when it's going to be you, either on the receiving end or having to help deal with the situation. Excuse this quick interruption, but most agencies struggle to deliver enough firearms repetitions for their officers without increasing costs or pulling officers off shift. Laser Ammo solves that with a smokeless range and the dry fire systems that provide measurable, repeatable training without ammo, range travel, or overtime. If your department is ready to increase proficiency while controlling budgets, contact me, Terry at laserammo.com. Now back to the episode.
The biggest thing that I love about the trainings that we have put on, and we have kind of geared our trainings to, if you are going to fail, it's going to fail in training because we're going to add the worst case scenario. That way, when it happens in real life, it's a walk in the park. Every day, we're training for the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Just to play a preseason game. Sorry to throw football. See, I'm a football guy. I like that kind of thing. So that's the biggest thing is being able to, I keep saying it's the biggest thing. It's one of the things. One of the things that you can do, and I would really strongly encourage people to always train like this, is prepare for the worst. Absolutely prepare for the worst. That way, when the worst comes, or when a situation comes that's not the worst, you're able to, hey, this is nothing. I can do this. And I think that there are some agencies out there, both for the medical and fire side, that are complacent, are unable to get the funding for training. But if you are really into trying to make a difference in your own community, it doesn't take a lot of money to show effort. It doesn't take a lot of time to really practice for a situation. It just takes you and one or two other people to really, hey, we need to push this in our own department, and we're going to do this any way we can to get a training that helps us. We don't need a meaningless training that covers a PowerPoint on the next city council meeting, right? We need, hey, if something happens and something catastrophic has occurred, we need a team that can solve that problem in a professional and fast, rapid manner. I think that's literally a testament to what you did in the military, to get that training, like I said before, and to implement it in even a situation where you're not even prepared for it. That's the biggest thing is you were not prepared for that situation, but you were, right? Because you've trained that situation. You've trained, hey, someone's in need. Let me put my actions in. And I can't imagine how many people are around who also had the same training, but were not prepared for the worst case scenario. And were thinking of what you were thinking. Thank God he came in. Thank God somebody else did it, right? And the doctor situation, and like I said earlier, a doctor or a nurse, there are so many different levels of training or what they do, that you might be a nurse, but you're not a trauma nurse. You might be a doctor, but you're not a trauma doctor, right? You're like a pediatrician. You know what I mean? I don't know. You have training. I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that people who have training, and have proper training and have the mindset of, hey, I know how to take control of this situation, they should step in. The people that have a title that haven't done it for years or have any idea what they're doing, hey, I don't care that you're a nurse. I'm sorry. I care, I hope you get your free coffee at Starbucks on First Responder Day, but right now I need someone who is ready for this absolute traumatic scene and help me. We had a really horrific traffic scene when I was a rookie. This guy is, he lived too, which was honestly a crazy testament how that worked out. He was hit by a car. I think he was going like 80 miles an hour on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
No helmet. Yes, I know. His face was completely butchered. We could see the inside I could see his tonsils. The eye socket was completely ripped off. I could, it was a horrific scene.
Horrific.
But when you arrive, so I come from a city of about 65, 70,000. And we have 2 major hospitals with a lot of mini hospitals around us. So everybody's a nurse or a first responder, it feels like sometimes. So when I arrive on scene, almost every traffic crash that I've been on that's an injury, there has been a medical professional on scene. Almost every time. And that is a godsend for how many people try to help in our community. I think that's amazing. This one in particular, I don't know what she did. I hope that she is okay after the fact, but he was choking on his blood, and and she's trying to control his head because, again, he just got in this major car accident. We don't want to put him in the recovery position because we don't know what's wrong with him. But at that point, I don't care about if he is going to get more hurt. I want him to survive, right? Her instinct was to put her finger in his mouth to swoop away some of the blood, and he bit down on her, and turns out she was not a trauma nurse. And I feel bad, but she helped, and I think she did an amazing job. She was able to put herself into worst case scenario situation. I think at one point I told her to do something, or somebody else did, and she said, I don't know if I can cuss on here.
Cuss away, mate.
Okay, she said, oh fuck. And I was like, oh man, she's in it now, But no, it's truly a work of your training to show on a traumatic incident of, this is what we need to do and this is how we're going to get it done. And yeah, again, those doctors and nurses, they love to tell you though, don't they? Of, hey, I'm this, I'm that. And it's almost like what do you do though? Right? What do you do?
Yeah.
But no, I give those people a ton of credit, because when they show up, hopefully they're doing what their training has taught them to do. I know a lot of times when doctors are on scene, they have a controlled environment when they get a patient some of the times. They're ready to be in an operating room, or they're in the ER room with a ton of medical equipment, where when we're in the field in the dirt, we don't have time to sterilize it. We just have time to stop the bleeding and get them to a sterile field. Right now, we don't have this time. We need to get this bleeding to stop, or we need to get this situation controlled, put them in a controlled environment. That way you can do what you have to do as a medical professional. But no, it's definitely, it's interesting.
So I've got a couple of other questions for you, and then we'll wrap it up. What decisions or catalyst was it that drove you to want to become a law enforcement officer?
Well, I grew up in a different world, I would say, in the opposite of law enforcement, if that makes any sense.
Okay. All right.
So some people have family that have been in law enforcement, and that's just how they go. I did not. I had no background other than people who were on the opposite side of the law. And there was an incident when I was growing up. that there was a really bad situation and police had to come to my home. And there was this one officer that sat me down at the dinner table when all this chaos was happening around me. And I remember, I had to be 6 or 7. And he talked to me, not as a kid, and he talked to me just as a human being. And from that moment, I said, I want to be a police officer. This is the thing I wanted to do, pretty much my entire life. And I went to college, continued to go into that journey, worked as a corrections officer during college. That was an interesting time too. And then thankfully, I got hired by my agency, fresh out of college, and it's been a dream come true. It's definitely chaotic. It's a lot of what the heck is going on right now. But you do have these situations where you made an impact with somebody, and that's all it's there for. And that's why I wear the badge, is just because I truly, as corny as it sounds, I like to help people.
It's not corny.
And I just I like to be the one that's there when chaos is happening, because I want to fix it. I want to help. That's the biggest thing, is I just want to help people.
Which is so funny, because I have had a couple of interviews recently with people that spend a lot of their years in the police departments, and that is a consistent theme. They want to help. They want to be there when chaos ensues, when something bad is happening. And of course, if you think back to when you had a police officer sit you down as a 6 or a 7-year-old and calmly talk to you, and whatever he talked about had such an amazing impact. And now the fact that you are able to be in a position to do the same with others, or at a conference, save a life because of, clear thinking under stress. It's a calling. It's not just something, you pick up and put down. It's something that I think people go into with a drive and a passion to serve and obviously protect, especially, in your case with what happened there. So you're obviously in the department for a while. When did you go across to SWAT?
I got in the SWAT team in September of 24. So just about a year ago. I didn't think that I was going to be the tactic rah-rah kind of guy when I joined. You got the guys who are all jacked up doing push-ups, shooting really well. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm the charismatic guy, right? I'm the guy who's, if there's a kid that's crying, I'll go to the kid. You know what I mean? But as I got deeper into this career, I started to fall in love with tactics and how to keep us safe, how to safely approach situations, and going on high risk warrants, how to arrest people safely. That was where I was like, you know what? I do want to do this. And I had a couple buddies on the SWAT team that really were like, hey, you got to be on the team. Like it's fun. It's something that you have a completely different perspective of, but the training that we get and you implement it on patrol. I mean, the thing that I will say that our department does really good at is the SWAT team. If you're a patrol officer and you're on the SWAT team, you're expected to take control of a tactic situation. And that's a big responsibility, to show up to a scene and say, okay, I have control. And based on the training that I have, I think that we're going to breach this door, or we're going to go in this side, and we're going to do this. Because, I mean, majority of the time, patrol is going to solve the issue. SWAT is, as much as I love SWAT. We don't have a full-time SWAT team. I wish. But most of the time, patrol is going to write the warrants and serve the warrants, where SWAT, it's a special circumstance for things to be met for us to serve it. So it's definitely nice to, okay, all this training that I've had, let's use it on a patrol level. They have really trusted us as a SWAT unit to implement the tactics and devices on patrol. So when people are like, you guys are doing what on patrol, from different agencies, I was like, yeah, that's not normal. And they're like, no, not at all. You guys are throwing flashbangs. I was like, sometimes, it depends on the time, but, no, that we are starting to advance, not only our SWAT team, but our patrol unit too. So it's been nice to really fall into that passion of, I want our guys to be safe, because at the end of the day, this is a job, and I want you to go home at night, and I want you to have every bit of training to get you to go home.
Yeah, to make sure they do make it to the end of the shift and get to go home to their own loved ones. Yeah. So I think there's probably at some point in the near future, there'll be another conversation where I have you back to talk more about CQB, tactics, etc. You don't have to give anything away, but I think there's a deeper conversation that would be of interest to people that listen to the Making Shooters Better podcast. So keep that open, all right, on the table, because I think I'm going to circle back and see if we can do that so that we're specifically talking about CQB and the kinds of things I think people need to know for home defense, for self-protection in that arena. So my last question to you then is going to be, if you had access to a whole room full of civilians and you could offer them perhaps 2 or 3 golden nuggets of advice, what would they be?
It's a tough one. That is a tough one. Like I said before, the worst thing that you can do, no matter what level of life you've lived, is to do nothing. If there is a group of people that are willing to help in any way and understand their role, that is what's going to be the goal at the end of the day is, hey, we got to do this objective, and your role is a key vital part of this. So it might be the guy who is doing chest compressions, or it might be the guy who's running to call 911. That is a big thing for me. And I tell a lot of the new officers, like I said before, is the worst thing you can do is do nothing. I don't care if you fail miserably trying your best to do something, as long as you're trying and not getting in the way of people. The biggest thing is just do something, and be able to slow your brain down and being able to think rationally. Because that's the next part, is that you tell people, okay, I don't want you to freeze, now do something. Well, then your brain is in chaos and you're like, okay, what do I got to do? And so now, hey, if you need to pause, not freeze, you need to pause. And take a couple breaths and get your tunnel vision away and be able to think rationally. Now we can start working. That is the 2 biggest things I would say is, don't freeze and just slow your brain down, because it's going to go at 1,010 miles an hour. And Terry, you don't know me too well, but the people here at my agency know me very well, and they know that I'm the king of, I see a car and I'm like a dog, I got to chase it, right? So they're like, hey, and I think they've done a really good job over the years of teaching me how to slow down and being able to take a tactical pause, see the situation for what it is, and approach it. And I'm not coming from anybody saying that I'm this huge tactics guru. I've seen the people that you've had on this podcast. I've watched a lot of people on a ton of podcasts. I'm like none of those people. I'm just like every other new first responder. The biggest thing is you learn through your failures, learn how to fail forward, and be able to be okay with criticism. That's you're not going to be perfect. I wish I was Hondo all the time. I wish I could bust indoors perfectly and be able to get all these major warrants done. There's a lot of failures in this job, but being able to realize the mission at the end of the day is, hey, let's protect the people that we're serving and work as a team. And I think that's the best thing. So I know it's a long drawn out answer, but that's the 2 biggest things that I would say is, from a civilian standpoint, is don't freeze and just be able to work through a problem and pause your brain. That way you can work through that problem effectively.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a huge part of that is stress inoculation. And there is no better stress than putting yourself into a situation where you're learning a brand new skill, where you are put in a position where you don't have the answers and you've got to figure out the best answer. Because as they frequently told me in the military, an imperfect plan started right now is better than a perfect plan 10 minutes after this disastrous situation has passed. So it's doing something, but it's doing something constructive. And unfortunately, there's no other way, there's no shortcut to figuring out whether you can handle stress and make decisions clearly and cleanly until you're in a situation to screw it up. And if you're going to screw it up, it may as well be in a classroom where you hope there's a relatively supportive environment,
yes.
Where you can crack some funnies and go, well, nobody died,
Yeah. Yep. Or if they did die, well, next time they won't,
Hey, next time I got you.
If that's not the truth, there's been how many training exercises you're like, well, welcome to the show. Oops. Okay. We learned from
that one a lot. Oh, it's funny. All right. Thank you. On behalf of the guy whose life you helped save, thank you for him. Thank you for agreeing to come on here and share what happened. And also, probably most important for me and for a lot of the people that listen to the podcast is showing the person and the personality behind the uniform, because I think that's something that we too often in modern society overlook, that there are a group of very dedicated, passionate and empathetic souls that wear that uniform and go out every single day, risking it all to do the right thing, protect and serve. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming on today to share what happened at the ALERRT Conference.
Well, thank you so much, Terry, for having me on. This was really fun.
As always, thank you for listening to this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. It's a free and easy way to help support the show and help us bring you the guests that you want to hear from. Thanks again for tuning in. For now, I hope all of you have a bloody toppers day, and we will see you in the next episode. Cheers.